relaxing mood for us tonight, so you can drift off to sleep, sleep, sleep. I have some matches, some matches, some matches, some matches, some matches. To light our candle, to light our candle. our 6th grade class took a field trip to Manhattan. 28 mental case kids and two teachers on a yellow school bus heading to the Metropolitan Museum of Art to look at ancient Greek and Roman stuff. I know, it sounds like torture. Most DNC field trips were, but Mr. Bruner, our Latin teacher, was leading this trip, so I had hopes. Mr. Bruner was this middle-aged guy in a motorized wheelchair. He had thinning hair and a scruffy beard, and a frayed tweed jacket, which always smelled like coffee. You wouldn't think he'd be cool, but he told stories and jokes and let us play games in class. He also had this awesome collection of Roman armor and weapons. So he was the only teacher whose class didn't put me to sleep like we're trying to do for you, to sleep. I hoped the trip would be okay. At least I hoped that for once I wouldn't get in trouble. Boy, was I wrong. See, bad things happen to me on field trips. Like at my 5th grade school, when we went to the Saratoga battlefield, I had this incident with a Revolutionary War cannon. I wasn't aiming for the school bus, but of course, I got expelled anyway. And before that, at my 4th grade school, when we took a behind-the-scenes tour of the Marine World Shark Pool, I sort of hit the wrong lever on the catwalk, and our class took an unplanned swim, and the time before that, well, you get the idea. This trip, I was determined to be good. All the way into the city, I put up with Nancy Popovit, the freckly, red-headed kleptomaniac girl, hitting my best friend Grover in the back of the head with chunks of peanut butter and ketchup sandwich. That's gross. Grover was an easy target. He was scrawny. He cried when he got frustrated. He must have been held back several grades because he was the only 6th grader with acne and the start of a wispy beard on his chin. On top of all that, he was crippled. He had a note excusing him from PE for the rest of his life because he's had some kind of muscular disease in his legs. He walked funny, like every step hurt him, but don't let that fool you. You should see him run when it was enchilada day in the cafeteria. Anyway, Nancy Popovit was throwing wads of sandwich that stuck in his curly brown hair, and she knew I couldn't do anything back to her because I was already on probation. The headmaster had threatened me with death by in-school suspension if anything bad, embarrassing, or even mildly entertaining happened on this trip. I'm gonna kill her, I mumbled. Grover tried to calm me down. It's okay. I like peanut butter. He dodged another piece of Nancy's lunch. That's it. I started to get up, but Grover pulled me back to my seat. You're already on probation, he reminded me. You know who'll get blamed if anything happens. Looking back on it, I wish I'd decked Nancy Popovit right then and there. In-school suspension would have been nothing compared to the mess I was about to get myself into. Mr. Bruner led the museum tour. He rode up front in his wheelchair, guiding us through the big, echoey galleries, past marble statues and glass cases full of really old black and orange pottery. It blew my mind that this stuff had survived for 2,000, 3,000 years. He gathered us around a 13-foot-tall stone column with a big sphinx on top, and started telling us how it was a grave marker, a steal for a girl about our age. He told us about the carvings on the side. I was trying to listen to what he had to say because it was kind of interesting, but everybody around me was talking, and every time I told them to shut up, the other teacher chaperone, Miss Dodds, steel. Perhaps you'll tell us what this picture represents. I looked at a carving and felt a rush of relief because I actually recognized it. That's Kronos eating his kids, right? Yes, Mr. Brunner said, obviously not satisfied. And he did this because, well, I racked my brain trying to remember. Kronos was the king god and god, Mr. Brunner asked. Titan, 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 I corrected myself. And he didn't trust his kids, who were gods. So, Kronos ate them, right? But his wife hid baby Zeus and gave Kronos a rock to eat instead. And later, when Zeus grew up, he tricked his dad, Kronos, into barfing up his brothers and sisters. Ew, said one of the girls behind me. And so there was a big fight between the gods and the Titans, and the gods won. Some snickers from the group. Behind me, Nancy Bobofit mumbled to a friend, like we're going to use this in real life, like it's going to say on our job applications. Please explain why Kronos ate his kids. And why, Mr. Jackson, Brunner said, to paraphrase Miss Bobofit's excellent question, does this matter in real life? Busted, Grover muttered. Shut up, Nancy hissed, her face even brighter red than her hair. At least Nancy got backed too. Mr. Brunner was the only one who ever got her saying anything wrong. He had radar ears. I thought about his question and shrugged. I don't know, sir. I see. Mr. Brunner looked disappointed. We'll have credit, Mr. Jackson. Zeus did indeed feed Kronos a mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge the other five, not one, not two, not three, not four, but five children, who of course, being immortal gods, had been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach. The gods defeated their father, sliced him to pieces with his own scythe, and scattered his remains in Tartarus, the darkest part of the underworld. On that 6th school in 6 years, and I was probably going to be kicked out again. I wouldn't be able to stand that sad look she'd give me. Mr. Brunner parked his wheelchair at the base of the handicapped ramp. He ate celery while he read a paperback novel. A red umbrella stuck up from the back of his chair, making it look like a motorized cafe table. I was about to unwrap my sandwich when Nancy Bobofit appeared in front of me with her ugly friends. I guess she'd gotten tired from stealing from tourists and dumped her half-eaten lunch in Grover's lap. Oops, she grinned at me with her crooked teeth. Her freckles were orange, as if somebody had spray painted her face with liquid Cheetos. I tried to stay cool. The school counselor had told me 1,000,000 times, count to 10, to 10, to 10, get control of your temper. But I was so mad my mind went blank. A wave roared in my ears. I don't remember touching her, but the next thing I knew, Nancy was sitting on her butt in the mountain, screaming, "Percy pushed me." Miss Stotts materialized next to us. Some of the kids were whispering, "Did you see? The water. Like it grabbed her." I didn't know what they were talking about. All I knew was that I was in trouble again. Soon as Miss Stotts was sure poor little Nancy was okay, promising to get her a new shirt at the museum gift shop, etc., etc. Miss Stotts turned on me. There was a triumphant fire in her eyes, as if I'd done something she'd been waiting for all semester. "Now, honey, I know," I grumbled. "A month erasing workbooks." That wasn't the right thing for me to say. "Come with me," Miss Stotts said. "Wait," Grover yelped. "It was me. I pushed her." I stared at him stunned. I couldn't believe he was trying to cover for me. Miss Stotts scared Grover to death. "I don't think so, Mr. Underwood," she said. "But you will stay here." Grover looked at me desperately. "It's okay, man. Thanks for trying." "Honey," Miss Stotts barked at me. "Now." Nancy Bobofit smirked. "I'll give her my deluxe." I gave her my deluxe "I'll kill you later" stare. Then I turned to face Miss Stotts, but she wasn't there. She was standing at the museum entrance, way at the top of the steps, gesturing impatiently for me to come on. How did she get there so fast? I have moments like that a lot, where my brain falls asleep or something, and the next thing I know, I've missed something. As if a puzzle piece fell out of the universe and left me staring at the blank space behind it. The school counselor told me this was part of my ADHD, my brain interpreting things. I wasn't so sure. I went after Miss Stotts. Halfway up the step, I glanced back at Grover. He was looking pale, cutting his eyes between me and Mr. Brunner, like he wanted Mr. Brunner to notice what was going on. But Mr. Brunner was absorbed in his novel. I looked back up. Miss Stotts had disappeared again. She was now inside the building, at the end of the entrance hall. Okay, I thought, she's gonna make me buy a new shirt for Nancy at the gift shop. But apparently that wasn't the plan. I followed her deeper into the museum. When I finally got up to her, we were back in the Greek and Roman section. Except for us, the gallery was empty. Miss Stotts stood with her arms crossed in front of a big marble frieze of the Greek gods. She was making this weird noise in her throat, like growling. Even without the noise, I would have been nervous. It's weird being alone with a teacher, especially Miss Stotts. Something about the way she looked at the frieze, as if she wanted to pulverize it. "You've been giving us a problem, honey," she said. I did the safe thing, and I said, "Yes, ma'am." She tugged at the cuffs of her leather jacket. "Did you really think you would get away with it?" The look in her eyes was beyond bad. It was evil. "She's a teacher," I thought nervously. "It's not like she's gonna hurt me." I said, I'll try harder, ma'am." Thunder shook the building. "We're not fools, Percy Jackson," Miss Stotts said. "It was only a matter of time before we found you out. Confess, and you will suffer less pain." I didn't know what she was talking about. All I could think was that the teachers must have found the illegal stash of candy I'd been selling out of my dorm room. Or maybe they'd realized I got my essay on Tom Sawyer from the internet without ever reading the book, and now they were going to take away my grade. Or worse, they were going to make me read the book. from her swim in the mountain, grumbling to her ugly friends. When she saw me, she said, "I hope Miss Kerr whipped your butt." I said, "Who?"